So you're a history professor here at Mississippi State,
Mm-hmm.
and just talk to me and tell me about, how you got like here. Like, where did you just, from the start, like, how did you get here?
How to get here, or how did I get into my profession?
Into teaching your profession. How did you get there and everything? Just
Okay.
bring it all
So
here.
the longest possible view is that it's sort of the family business. My parents are both in academia. My dad taught economics for a little while and then transitioned over to working in administration. He did the budget for a small branch campus of the University of Pittsburgh for about 40 years. My mother taught at the same school, taught geography and cartography. So it's always I think it's a little easier to go into the business that your family's in, just because you see how it works and you know what it's about. I went to college. I majored in music. I don't know why I did that. I wasn't really a talented musician. I didn't have any desire to teach music, and music history didn't grab me too much. But I liked college, and I liked I liked the environment. So I worked for a couple of years at a couple of different schools doing college admissions, kind of staying close to it, taking classes. In the meantime, I convinced myself that I wanted to work in history, and specifically in the history of science, which is my field. I don't have the same sort of intuitive appeal. Or a lot of history doesn't have the same sort of appeal to me that it does for some people. I've never been like a Civil War buff or anything like that, but I'd always been interested in science, and I found that looking at how people in different times and places had thought about the world through that lens was really interesting. So I went to grad school in Wisconsin, and one of the relatively few schools where they teach the history of science. Eventually, I got my degree, and I came to Mississippi because Mississippi was the first place that was good enough to hire me.
Okay.
And that's how you get a job in academia. You go wherever the first job comes from.
All right. So if I was wanting to be a history professor, I would just have to like whoever, after I'm done with everything, school and all that, and I'm ready to throw my name out there. Whoever says jump, you have to get there.
Well, it's not a rule, but you never know when the next offer is going to come along. It's not uncommon for. I mean, I was lucky. I got an offer early in the process, right? In fact, it was that year that a history department here was hiring 5 people, so they were starting very, very early in the year, because it takes 2 or 3 months to go through the whole process, start to finish, and so they were very motivated to do this very early in the year. So it didn't take long for me, but if I hadn't gotten this job, it could easily have been another year or two before another offer came along. So it's just a quirk of the calendar, and so yeah, you don't wait for it's. You don't wait for better opportunities for the most part. No, I mean hopefully you don't go to a place that you don't want to be, but hopefully you don't apply for jobs that you don't want.
Did you ever envision just being like? Because you said you grew up. I remember you said this in class. You said you grew up in the New England area, right?
No, I grew up in Western Pennsylvania.
But your parents are from the.
My folks are from New England. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Big Patriots fans.
Not football fans, my folks. Dad was a Red Sox fan growing up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't think Mom cares about sports.
Okay, all right. What about you?
About sports?
Yeah.
Oh, I love baseball. In fact, I've got my Facebook.
Just looking at. Okay, I got you.
So baseball. I played baseball. It was the only sport I was ever any good at, which is to say, I wasn't terrible at it. I like watching sports, but other than that, it's just a hobby.
I feel what you're saying. So, like, what inspired you? How about that? Like, what inspired you to, be a history professor? And, what, is there any people that might have inspired you? Any things specifically?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about inspired. I mean, the professors I had in college were very good. I mean, at least it seemed to me at the time. And looking back, I think that's correct. I mean, they were very good at their jobs. They made all kinds of different subjects interesting to me. They made learning an enjoyable thing. So I guess I was inspired in that sense. A lot of it for me is I like the people I work with. I like the lifestyle. I like the discipline as a whole, right? I work with the people in this building and in Allen Hall and in the broader university, and for the most part, we all, I think get along pretty well. Then I go off to conferences, or I'll keep in touch with my friends from grad school. So common interest. And being part of a profession, I think, goes a long way towards making the whole thing worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't, some people thrive on conflict, right? And there are professions where a sort of degree of conflict is built in, right? So if you're an entrepreneur, you're competing with people, right? If you're a lawyer, you're in an adversarial system. Academia doesn't work that way for the most part. That just had a good fit for me.
You're not so in being a professor in academia and all that, you're not trying to cut anybody's throat to get to the top spot or anything like that?
No. I mean, Henry Kissinger, made a joke. He used to, before he was Secretary of State and all the other things he was in academia. And he used to make a joke about how there actually were a lot of sort of cutthroat things in academia, and the joke he made was, the fights are so intense because the stakes are so low, right? It doesn't really work that way for the most part, though.
I think we were talking about what inspired you. Yeah, you were on a tangent about that.
Yeah. So anyway, I got interested in the history of science because, like a lot of people, I'm more interested in science than I have aptitude for it. But I started realizing that there were stories to be told there as well, and that this was something that was accessible for me.
So there's nobody specifically that inspires you?
No one person. I didn't really know any historians of science when I started it. I became aware of the field. I'm not entirely sure how, but there wasn't any particular link for me.
Nobody around you or anything? No friends, family, maybe somebody that just may have told you something one day that just made you think, and
Not about the history of science. Like I said, my own professors were good examples for me, but there was only one person at Kenyon who did the history of science, and I never took a class with her. I only found out about her after the fact.
Mm-hmm. So okay. So what kind of failures have you had to overcome in just getting this job and having it, being a professor?
Failures. Okay. Well, let's see where to begin. That's you fail a lot. I suppose we could start with failing to get into all the graduate programs I applied to. It's not a surprise, but it's a failure. I didn't have what they were looking for. Maybe they wanted someone more qualified, more had taken more coursework or what have you. I didn't exactly fail my master's exam, but I had to rewrite my thesis twice. That was a scary moment because you don't want I mean, at that point you've been in for 2 years and you've got plans to be in for a bunch more. I failed to finish in what might be considered a timely fashion. The average time to degree from the moment you get your bachelor's to the moment you get your PhD in history is more than 8 years, but that includes a lot of sort of statistical noise from people who will take in some cases 20 or 25 years and just sort of write a dissertation in their own time. For somebody who went straight through grad school and never left to do anything else, the 8 years that I was there is a pretty long time. We expect much better things of the students we put through our PhD program here, for instance. Every book you write, every article you write is a failure in that it's never accepted in its initial form, right? People that you're not thinking of when you write it the first time will see problems with what you've done that you didn't see. force you to think about things you hadn't considered, and so there's a whole process. Most articles get rewritten 2 or 3 times. Most books go through 2 or 3 revisions before they're published. So I've had all those kinds of failures, and there's and then there's you don't always reach every student in the classroom, right? Sometimes that's their fault. I like to think most of the time it's their fault, but not all the time, right? There are people who would get a C or a D in my class, who maybe would get an A or a B in someone else's class, and I don't always necessarily know that that's a result of something I did, but it happens.
Okay, so to be a history professor, how long do you have to be in school?
Well, it's not so much a question of how long as what degree you get. So to teach at a school like Mississippi State, you need a PhD, and that involves somewhere between 5 or more years of postgraduate or of graduate school. 2 years to get your master's degree, maybe another year of classes for for the doctoral degree, and then research and writing your dissertation. You essentially have to write a book, to get your PhD. It's not necessarily, it's not exactly the book you publish, but it's usually on a similar topic. So my dissertation was about 300 double-spaced pages long, and that it's one thing, to write that much, but you also have to research it. So that takes a good long while.
I have to know what you're talking about when you're talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Wow, being a history professor sounds much harder than what you would expect.
Well, yeah, it's challenging, and the expectations don't stop, with that, right? You have to keep working, you have to keep producing, you have to keep publishing. You've got service responsibilities, so you serve on committees and you do advising, and you organize events and you bring in speakers and things like this. So yeah, we keep pretty busy.
Okay. What do you love about being a professor? Like, what do you love about your job the most?
I'm never bored, and that there's something to that. There's a sense that you have when you're putting things together and creating a narrative as a historian, that you're sort of getting to leave your mark on things in a particular way. Not necessarily that you're going to change how everybody sees everything, but it's hard work, telling the stories of times and places that are different from your own, and so you take a sort of pride of ownership in that. I've always, since I've been one, I've liked people of the age of college students, or the age of most college students, right? I won't say that 18 to 22-year-olds are always at the peak of their, intellectual prowess or their curiosity or what have you. Mm-hmm. But I like being around people of that age. It's, and you can probably tell in the pop culture class, I make a joke about, oftentimes about how different our perspective is, and yet you'd be amazed, maybe you'd be appalled at how close in perspective the college students of 2016 are to the perspectives that I remember being my own at that age. So it's to some extent the people. I have good colleagues, so there's a lot to like about it.